Hello all, BL Carter here, hoping you are doing well, working on your puzzle one piece at a time. Today I wanted to talk with you briefly about abuse and the warning signs thereof. And this is going to be a quick podcast, it's not going to be very long, but our Wednesday night sister chat this week, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going to go into more detail and talk about this sister to sister. But this information is here for you all to just remind yourselves, do a self check if you need to, if there's someone else's relationship you need to kind of look at and see if some of these things apply, please do so. So let's dig in. Warning signs. First, when he isolates you. Now, when he's isolating you, he's attempting to control your friendships, your relationships, whether it's with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers, even your exes. And we don't always keep in touch with our exes, so frequently, some of us do. Um, but if he's the kind of person that doesn't even want you talking to your exes at all, that's a bit troublesome. And I get it that it's a new relation. Your relationship with him is new, and the exes are in the past. However, many people still maintain relationship with their exes, and by that I mean, the once a year Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, or the once a year Happy Mother's Day, Happy Father's Day. We all send out group texts, excuse me, and so that sort of thing. If your ex and you had been together for any extended period of time, there's probably going to be some ties, not just with the ex, but with family. So let's say, for example, you and your ex were together 10, 15 years, and y'all are broken up, you're with your new husband or um, living, whatever, and let's say he has a death in the family of someone that you knew and had good relationship with. Well, it should be okay for your ex to call and say, hey, just want to let you know so and so passed away, or just want to let you know so and so asked for your number, can I give them your number? Those sorts of things, very innocent. But if your current husband, mate, is not in agreement with you having that sort of relationship, that's a bit concerning. Um, Another way he may try to isolate you is he may try to limit the time that you spend with anyone other than him. Or he may feel he needs to approve who you spend the time with. And those are warning signs, definitely warning signs. You should not have any relationship where you don't have the freedom and autonomy to pick your own friends. Now, of course, you wouldn't want to have friends that are not in agreement with your relationship. You wouldn't want to have friends that are always going to be in the middle of your relationship or create conflict. But if your friends are healthy toward the relationship or healthy toward you or for you, then you should be able to have your relationships with them. And obviously keep it in moderation and give him his appropriate time and give them their appropriate time. Next, let's talk about when he tries to come between you and your kids. If you have children from a previous relationship and he comes into the fold, he may try to make you choose between you and the kids, between him and the kids, I'm sorry. For example, it may be a matter of you want to go to, or he wants to go to the movies and the kids want to go to the park. And you may find yourself having those kinds of conflicts all the time where the kids want to go to McDonald's, he wants to go to Burger King. I don't know. I don't do fast food too much, but and it's a constant thing of wanting you to choose his option over the kids' options. Um, he may even try to pit the kids against you by saying bad things about you in their presence or behind your back to them, or he may try to pit them against you. I've seen this actually, one particular relationship I'm thinking of, it was quite troublesome to me that to know that, and this is actually, it was reversed, it was the wife who was pitting the husband against his biological kids. And this woman did everything she could to sever the relationship with this man and his kids. And he actually became an aggressive person toward his kids based on all the stuff the woman was feeding into him. So, like I said earlier, this can apply male and female. I just happen to be doing it from a perspective of female with the male being the abuser. But you definitely want to watch for that. If he is trying to pit you against anyone, especially your kids, you definitely want to watch for that. Um, Next, we have when his demeanor changes strategically. And by that I mean he has enough sense to know to act a certain way around others. He has enough sense to know to be warm, fuzzy, loving, and that joint partner that he was at the beginning of the relationship around other people, especially when those others are your family and friends. But then as soon as they're gone and as soon as it's just you two or maybe some of his personal people, he gets cold. He may be stern. He may be ordering you around, being somewhat dictatorial, as if he's the king and he makes all the decisions. He tells you what to do and you do without question. The fact that he can flip-flop between those two demeanors lets you know he knows what he's doing. And he's doing it strategically. Because any man in his right mind would not act a fool in front of your people or around other people. He don't want any witnesses. Around the witnesses, they're going to be warm, loving, happy-go-lucky, all of that. And then the true colors are going to show in private. So you definitely want to watch for that. Then, when he demeans you, humiliates you, disgraces you, or embarrasses you, this is definitely troublesome. And he may put you down, like the previous slide actually said, piggyback off of that, especially in front of others. But when he belittles you or your work, for example, you might have been working really, really hard on, I don't know, a cake. And let's say you're a baker and you really wanted to try this different, triangular shaped cake with a particular color, fondant, and etc. And you were kind of apprehensive about it, but you built up your courage and you finally did it and you came up with your cake. And you call him, you say, hey, hon, look at my cake. I finally did it. And he may look at it and say, oh, that's no big deal. That's concerning because what that is that's belittling you. That's also belittling the work of your hands. That's saying the things that matter to you doesn't matter to him. It means little to him. It means almost nothing to him. And you don't want to be in a relationship with someone who seems to not value you or the things that are important to you. He may also, try to embarrass you. You're out in public and you might make a statement and he may come at you crosswise just to shut you down, just to let you know he's the boss, don't talk, don't speak. Or he may highlight something that you did in the past that you might have been embarrassed for. He might get in front of other people and say it and bring it up just to watch you just, cringe in your seat. You don't want that. When the man begins to compete with you, you got a problem for real. As I said before, belittling you or your work, but then it's like he's trying to outdo you. Using the cake example, he might turn around and say, well, yeah, that ain't no big deal. I can do it better than that. I can make a bigger one. And he'll come in tomorrow with all the stuff to make a cake and try to do a triple layer one. Yours might have been 2 layers. Now he's going to do a triple layer one and add some extra little decor on top of it because he wants to one-up you. And that's where the competition, that's where you can see he's competing with you. And then he may say little things like his way of doing something is better than yours, or he might say your way is the wrong way. Now, in a relationship, there is no better and there is no right or wrong. You work together and you arrive at what works for the two of you. So you can give you an example for that. Mopping the floor. You might have grown up, And there are different ways to mop. You can mop the full mop with water, or you can kind of do a dry mop and things like that. So he might say uh, he grew up doing dry mops. So he gets the mop, he wrings it out, and he runs it across the floor. And you get the mop, and you grew up doing a full wet floor. So you put the water on and you wash it, and then you come back and rinse, kind of run back over with the dry mop to get the water up. He might feel his way is better or that your way is wrong. It's not one way is better or is wrong. You just were raised two different ways, doing it two different ways. But his mind sees it as a competition, sees it as him being better than you. And you don't want anyone in your life who's going to feel like they are better than you. At no point at all do you want anyone in your life who's going to feel like they're better than you. And then I have a little disclaimer here. Of course, this excludes healthy competition. When you're in a relationship, there's going to be some healthy competition, and that's okay. For example, it might be a matter of, it's Saturday, it's cleaning day. And you guys say, okay, whoever cleans, finishes, let's say you have 2 bathrooms and 4 bedrooms in the house. He takes 2 bedrooms and a bath, you take 2 bedrooms and a bath. Whoever finishes the cleaning first gets to buy the other one brunch. Or, whoever finishes some particular task first gets to run the bath for the other one. Little things like that. That's loving. That's healthy competition. But just to compete on the matter of having a 3-tier cake versus a 2-tier cake, that's competition, and that's unhealthy. So, what about when he wants everything in his name? Or his name on everything? Men who, and I get that a man does not want to live in a home, paying a mortgage, that his name is not on the deed. I get that. And ladies, if you owned your home when you met him and he moved in with you, I highly suggest at some point you guys quickly move into a place together for the two of you, or vice versa. You could have moved in with him, same situation. I suggest you work toward moving into some place the two of you start together new. But sometimes that's not possible. And it may be that if you marry him and you're going full force in all the finances, you can have his name added to the deed. It's just a matter of, going to the courthouse, taking care of the paperwork. But be careful, don't just do it automatically. Make him prove himself before you add his name to your deed, because his name is on the property, but not on the financial documents. Yes, you can refinance the house if you want to keep it, such that both your names are on the loan. However, closing costs for refinancing, you're throwing away anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000, depending on what the closing costs are going to be, just to add his name on a piece of paper. If you are pretty sure that he's going to be the one, and you want to add his name to your deed, you can take care of it at the courthouse, and then have him do a promissory note, or include it in the prenup or something. That once you add his name to the deed, he is going to be responsible for his share of the finances in that. So you don't change the loan with the bank, but you still have another document holding him accountable. So if you guys divorce 5-10 years down the road, the house is not paid for, that opens the door to ensure that the judge can award you the appropriate monies that need to be paid to resolve that issue, or however you're going to handle it. But be careful with that, because if he wants everything in his name, or his name on everything, besides it showing insecurities on his part, it also might show the potential financial abuse that he's trying to do. They want everything bought with y'all's money, but everything in his name, so that as soon as he skips out, he can take everything with him. And what happens? You're stuck with some of the obligations. You've been helping building toward y'all's, and since it's got his name on it, he takes it and runs with it. And the converse of that, if everything is in your name and his name is on very little, then y'all run around buying a whole bunch of stuff, cars, houses, jewelry, vacations, everything, and it's all in your name. If you're the kind of people that like to use a lot of credit for stuff. everything is your name. He turns around and walks away. Now you've leveraged your name and your credit, your financial portfolio for the relationship. He's walked out of the relationship. You have all this stuff that you most likely don't want to go into another relationship with, and at the same time, you have the financial responsibilities for it. So keep that in mind. You want to be very careful with that. Um, when he no longer shows signs of valuing you, when he begins to be late and you guys have appointments, you got date night, you've got if dinner is normally ready at 6 and he's starting to come in at 6:30, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever, he's no longer valuing you, y'all's time together, or the relationship. When he stops honoring his word, his commitments or his agreements, that means that he's not valuing you. He's not valuing the relationship. He's not valuing his commitment to you, and chances are it's probably no longer meeting your needs, and not just sexual, but your emotional needs. Women, we tend to be more emotional creatures, and thus, when he's no longer meeting your needs, it, that in itself says he doesn't value you. He doesn't value you enough to be sure that your needs are met. But he wants to make sure that dinner's ready when he comes home, whatever time he comes. The bath is ready, his back is scrubbed, laundry done, all those kinds of things that you do. But he's not reciprocating in the ways that you need him to reciprocate to you. Watchful, watchful, warning sign. What about when he gives away, trashes, or destroys your property without discussion or prior consent? Now, this could be your individual property that you had before the relationship, or individual property that you acquired either from someone else or from him as a gift during the relationship. For example, you had a bracelet, a tennis bracelet, and you just happen to take it off, you're not wearing it, and he decides he's going to take it and give it to one of his nieces because she liked it. He didn't discuss it with you, he just gave it. Or I don't know, for example, you got a cell phone. This is during the relationship. You go to Sprint or Verizon or wherever, and you get a cell phone, and at some point you upgrade to another phone. So he goes in and he decides to just take your cell phone and give it to someone that he knows needs a phone. He doesn't discuss it with you ahead of time. No, nothing. He just does it. That's concerning, because if he would take those little things, how much else will he take of yours and make decisions about without your consent? You definitely want to watch out for that. And if you're married, it could be marital property. Even if he plans to replace it, he has to discuss it with you first. Being married or being engaged or being in a committed relationship does not give someone else the right to take, destroy, or trash your property. Even if they plan to replace it, they're supposed to discuss it ahead of time. Well, hey, hon, you know what? You haven't been wearing this tennis bracelet, and I want to get you a nicer one anyway. Can I give this to my niece Tracy? Just as a little something, so she'll have something. She's been feeling down lately, and I just want to give it to her. And then you say, oh, okay, honey, that's a good idea. Great. Or you say, no, honey, that's not a good idea. That bracelet was given to me, I don't know, by, my favorite uncle or something. And although I don't wear it, it has a lot of sentimental value. So I don't want to part with it. Either way, there has to be the discussion. No one has the right to dispose of your property, whether it's your individual property or whether it's marital property, if you're married, without your consent, period. Okay. What about when he puts others before you? This is pretty self-explanatory, but as far as time, as far as needs being met, and again, that's not just the sexual needs, that's the emotional needs, that's the physical needs, that's medical needs, that's food, that's the basic needs, finances, etc. Mama's always calling for money, and he'll give it to her before he brings it into the house to make sure the house is taken care of. Daddy always has something going on with his car, so he'll go down there and spend money helping Daddy keep his car running. instead of making sure stuff in the house is taken care of first. Or instead of saying, honey, we got an extra $100 that, for whatever reason you have it. Do you have something in mind that we need to do with this? I was going to give it to daddy so he could, get a new battery for his car or something. I don't know. Batteries are not $100, but that's just an example. He may even put the dog before you. It may be the job. He's running to that job 6, 7 days a week, and you're sitting there like, twiddling your thumbs. Okay, hon, when do I get time? Because he's given the job all the time. Church, same thing. A lot of actually people get caught up in this. They get caught up in the concept of doing what the pastor says God says they need to be doing, and they wind up doing their ministry right on out of their marriages. And it could be his friends, his exes, or any other random friends that he comes along with. He's putting all of them and their needs and their wants before yours. Big, big, big red flag. What about when he becomes deceptive? When he starts hiding things like his cell phone or locking it, his tablets. What about the financial papers? Credit card slips come in or statements come in, and they might have used to, you guys may used to put them in a particular box on the desk, and now all of a sudden he's not putting them in there. Or he's not opening, let's say if the banks did, assuming if you're married, you have your individual accounts, you have your joint accounts, and he's hiding them or hiding, some portion of it. Wasn't hidden before, but now it is. Red flag, red flag. But just locking, even like social media. All of a sudden, social media he's changing passwords and you don't have access to it. But then again, if he still wants access to yours, but you don't have access to his, big red flag. Anything that a man wants you to do, he should be willing to do as well. And that's vice versa. Anything the woman wants the man to do, she should be willing to do as well. When his schedule changes, leaving early, he goes to work at 9, but all of a sudden he's leaving at 6 in the morning. Or he normally gets off at 5 and home by 6. Now all of a sudden he's not getting home till 7, 8 regularly. Something's wrong. And this is not the situational stuck in traffic type of thing. You have to establish what the pattern is, what the norm is, and then see the schedule change. Or he might say, and actually I had this happen to me, he say he's going to work, but he's dressed for something else. Now if he normally works in slacks and a top, well, slacks and a shirt, women wear tops, guys wear shirts, and he's dressed in a sweatsuit, he ain't going to work. Or if he normally wears like the work pants that the guys wear, the blue or black work pants with an appropriate work shirt, but now all of a sudden he's dressed in freshly pressed jeans and a nice shirt instead of a regular work shirt, he ain't going to work. He can tell you that, but he ain't going to work. Well, he might be going to work to pick up somebody and go somewhere else. Number 11, when he flat out disrespects or violates you. And this could be in the form of talking down to you. He might even bring other women around. Might not tell you who they are, but he'll let them be in your presence in some way. Now I'm going to stay on track because I almost said something. But I'm trying to stay. He might flaunt other women. Or, the truth is in plain sight, right smack in front of you, and then he'll deny it. You could see him, on social media, on Facebook, and chatting with some woman, and the conversation is a little edgy or whatever the case may be. Oh, no, there's nothing going on. There's nothing going on. And, that might be the time that he's leaving his cell phone or his tablet in your presence for you to see it. That's disrespectful. That's violating you. That's violating the trust. That's violating the relationship, any commitments that you've made. What about when he approaches you in a violent manner? Not putting his hands on you, but approach you. kind of come at you in a fast way with anger in him, and he catches himself, but he does it nonetheless. That's a red flag. That's a warning sign. But then what happens when he goes ahead and puts his hand on you in a violent manner? Punches you, slaps you, kicks you, hits you, pushes you, headbutts you, chokes you, just there's all kinds of different ways. But when a man puts his hand on you in a violent manner, problem, problem, problem. And here's another one a lot of people don't talk about. When he forces you to physically, when he forces you either physically or through verbal manipulation into some sort of intimacy, whether it's having sex, penetration, oral, whatever the case may be, you may not want to. And he may physically force, and that's rape, really. But when it's a verbal manipulation, well, I haven't had any in 3 weeks, and a man he can only take so much of this, and you may not want to. And who knows why? I don't know why. We can conjecture a whole bunch of reasons, but you may not want to. But for him to try to manipulate you into doing it instead of addressing why you don't want to, problem, big problem. And here we go. When he refuses to accept, to acknowledge, to discuss, or to deal with any of these things. If you bring it to him at an appropriate time, in an appropriate way, you're not yelling and carrying on, you're not in the middle of an argument, it's just you two, you don't have any witnesses around and trying to show him up or make him look bad. But he refuses to talk about it. He refuses to accept any accountability in there. He doesn't even want to discuss it. And in some cases may not even acknowledge. Oh no, you're reading too much into it. You're overthinking. You're paranoid. You're too jealous. You're anything. And what that does is that changes the responsibility of his behavior and tries to put some blame for the situation on you. So in essence, he's blaming you for his actions. Another thing, he'll try to twist the situation. Try to change the narrative such that you're starting to doubt yourself. Well, maybe it didn't happen the way I thought it happened. Or maybe I didn't see the text message on your phone that I thought I saw. Or, and you begin to doubt yourself. One other thing he may do is he may change the subject when you raise it. You might bring it up. Honey, I was noticing that my old jewelry, my old cell phones, things like that, you keep giving away. And instead of him addressing it, he'll switch and say, oh, okay, yeah, but we're going to go up here to the bank, and then we've got to go to the jewelry store, and we've got to go to Home Depot, and, kind of running down all the other things, just ignoring you, trying to switch the subject. If you bring it back around to there, he'll try to switch the subject again. If you bring it back around to there, then he may get angry. So keep that in mind. One thing I want to highlight, my dear Tyler Perry, and I forget which show it was, one of his movies, said if you got a real man, he ain't scared to go to jail. A real man gonna hit you, he ain't scared for you to call the police, he ain't scared for you to get a gun, he ain't scared of you to get nothing. Most times, women who have abusive men don't have real men. Most times they have punks, is what I'm going to call them in here. A punk will hit a woman. A punk will abuse a woman, manipulate a woman. A punk will change tunes when the police or others are around. Remember early on I said one whose demeanor changes depending on who's around? A punk will change his tunes when the police or others are around. Only a punk, not a real man now, but only a punk will create scars, emotional scars, and sometimes physical, in a woman that could take her an entire lifetime to heal from. And then the punk that he is, he's going to turn around and go on about his business once he's broken her, scarred her up, and he's going to move on to his next victim. So, what happens if you find yourself in these situations? Well, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, its website is thehotline.org, and the phone number 800-799-7233. Contact your local police. Now, this is, of course, if he's hit you or something on those lines. The Domestic Violence Hotline, you can contact them and go to their website and get a whole lot more information, because this subject is very broad, but they have a lot of detailed information on things that you can watch for and how you can prepare. But when it does get physical, you call who? You can call a hotline. They can get you emergency help. They can get you emergency housing and things like that. You need to pack up and go. You're going to call your relatives, your cousins, whomever, because, some people handle stuff uh, hmm, outside of the local police, put it that way. Attorney generals in the different states have various programs to assist persons who are victims of violence. The local police actually often have an assigned officer or two, or even a division that works with domestic violence. So they're specifically trained in this area. And actually, when I was going through, I had a particular officer that I worked with. I didn't have to talk to all the rest of the police. I talked to that one officer, and we, handled whatever it was we needed to handle. Whether it's restraining orders, whether it's arrest warrants, whether it's getting me to lawyers, whatever the case may have been. And then you also want to call around and get some information on the shelters in your area, because shelters are also a good source. If you've got to go at the drop of a dime in the middle of the night, a shelter will find somewhere for you to lay your head, especially if you have babies or children. Now, we talked about who you're going to call. Now let's talk about what you're going to do. First of all, you're going to document, and document again. I keep a journal. I've been keeping a journal for some time. Some people don't necessarily keep a journal, but if you're finding yourself in these situations, and sometimes you don't know really what it is, you go ahead and document it. Over a period of time, you'll begin to see the pattern. You're definitely going to do what you need to do to protect yourself and your kids if you have children. You're going to keep what we call mad money stashed somewhere, some cash and credit cards. Even if you just take $500 and put it on a prepaid card and leave it sit somewhere. Don't touch it. And then, because there are times when our cash gets low, it's the day before payday and you're just scrambling just to make the gas to get to work. So, and that happens to be the day that all hell breaks loose and you have no cash, but you have that credit card. But preferably you'll keep some cash and your credit card stashed in your emergency envelope. You're going to keep a change of clothes for you and the children, toothbrush, deodorant, all those kinds of things. You can even ride with them in the car, or you can keep them at a friend's house. You're going to have a buddy system, so have them there at your buddy's house. You're going to get certified copies of all your documents, your birth certificates, your all the records, the kids' school records, your immunization records, all that kind of stuff. Get certified copies of all that. Keep that in your emergency envelope. Stash at your friend's house. Some people put them in a lockbox at the bank. Wherever you want to put it, that's fine, but keep it off-site. You're also going to know the local laws where you live. Check into it. Get with the police. If it's not an emergency situation, you can talk to them, call their non-emergency number, and begin getting information on what your rights are. Attend a few domestic violence groups, support groups in your area if you're in doubt. Seeing a therapist, a trauma therapist, 1 or 2 sessions. Just kind of say what you're dealing with, and they will help you to determine if it's an emotionally abusive situation, and they can also help you determine if it's beginning to escalate, and kind of guide you in that area as well. And that's actually, this number 8 should have been early on, but you're going to establish a buddy system. And that buddy system, it can be one person, it can be two or three people. But when you're going through this, chances are there's going to be somebody that you eventually begin to open up to, or who's going to see the signs and engage you about it. So if they agree to be your buddy, that's your buddy, which means they're checking on you regularly. And you may have a code system like, I don't know, All Quiet on the Western Front. I don't know, ask me why I read that book when I was in college. But, it may be a matter of you check in with your buddy each night, a certain time, and the code is All Quiet on the Western Front. So that says to them, hey, everything's cool, we're good, etc. But if you make a habit of checking in with your buddy by 8 o'clock every night or 12 midnight, whatever time you make, and then you don't check in, they're automatically able to go ahead and begin trying to reach you to see what's going on, and eliciting help from whatever places they've got elicited help from to ensure your safety. And of course, all of these emergency numbers, phone numbers for all the critical people that you may need to reach, have all of that stuff handy. Put that in your emergency envelope with your cash, your credit card, your documents, copies of your driver's license and passport, because you can't get a duplicate, but you can at least have copies. So if you've got to go without the actual the original document, you can more easily get it replaced. And one thing I did at one point was I put in my cell phone emergency numbers, but I put it under an alternate contact name, but it was safe for me to do that. If your person checks your phone regularly, monitors your calls and things like that, you want to be careful about putting it in your phone. And I did eventually have a situation where my person was actually monitoring my calls. But that is something that, some women have done. You put it in under an alternate name. Let's say for your mom, you might have your mom, you might have the regular listing, and you might have an alternate listing for mom, which really goes to, your domestic violence police person, or it might really go to the Attorney General's office or something like that. And finally, let me say to you ladies, you're not obliged to accept the treatment. You are not his doormat. You are not his sounding board to be ranting and raving at you, and you're damn sure not his punching bag. You are worth more, and you are loved. So I want you guys to take that. And if you're in this situation, use the information in here, or if you know someone, use the information in here, but remind them daily, you are not obligated to accept it. You have to be strategic in your exit, but you're not their doormats. You're not their sounding boards or their punching bags. They don't get to step all over you, walk all over you, rant and rave and cuss and fuss at you whenever they want to. And they damn sure don't get to be putting their hands on you. You are worth more. You're a human being just like they are. Well, we assume so. You're equal. And I bet if he came into the relationship acting like that, he never would have gotten you. So if he's not willing to acknowledge what's going on and seek out the help and discuss, etc., you might want to start making some moves. Just know that you are loved, and we want you well. That being the case, be well. Wishing you favor, wishing you prosperity, and wishing you safety. Take care.